Hey traders, Raghee here. We're going to talk about patience and the euro and the pound. So if you are a Forex trader, pound US and euro US are exactly where you would go for this trade. But I want to mention something. Anytime we're talking about the US dollar, we're talking about the opportunity to look at the euro FX or the pound futures. So the future side of this trade is equally as applicable as the Forex side. So keep that in mind. Anytime we're talking currencies, trading against the US dollar, the opportunity exists for futures, for currency share ETFs, for the Forex, and now a number of the majors have weekly futures options on the currencies, which is something we're going to utilize a whole lot more this year. So I talked about not getting bored with trades in the recap video yesterday, and we're seeing an excellent amount of follow through today on the euro and the pound. And this is where I want to talk about an aspect of trading that chartists don't talk about enough. And that is that there are actually 3 avenues of analysis anytime you are a trader. When I say 3 avenues, these are the things you need to be able to master if you are going to play this for the long run. Now, I don't know how many of you out there might be, say, MMA or UFC fans, mixed martial arts. Early on, someone could be a puncher. Someone could simply be a one-dimensional fighter. You look at the UFC now, they can punch, they can grapple, they can kick, they can defend takedowns, right? They're well-rounded fighters. And that's what's happening in the charting. So I'm actually writing some things in the markets here. You can't just be a chartist. You can't just look at technicals. You can't just look at price. You really have to look at all 3 because this is a zero-sum game, gang. If you drop the ball and you want to be lazy with your analysis and wander into the markets, it is a battlefield where someone else might be better armed than you. I say this to make you prepare yourself before you put your capital at risk because someone else has prepared, and I want you prepared and I want you to win. So 3 avenues of analysis: price, technicals, and fundamentals. A lot of times traders who watch price and technicals, they have their indicators, they understand price movement, they understand flow, order flow, but they ignore the news because a lot of people say, well, news, that's not necessary. It is when you understand the psychology that it carries. We're already looking long the pound because the news and the psychology are telling us that the market's breathing a sigh of relief about Brexit, and that's going to keep the euro strong and it's going to keep the pound strong. Today we got the news that it's looking like we're going to have a softer Brexit. And I've been talking about the pound being what I call the mic drop trade of 2018 for a big reason. This is where the pound gets to finally get beyond the Brexit narrative. We start talking about healthier inflation numbers out of the UK. And this is where we eventually might even by 3rd quarter hear about the Bank of England ready to hike rates. You know, we're seeing a lot of central banks that aren't the US, right, now in the beginning of their tightening cycles, whether that be the Bank of Canada, whether that be the RBA. We're starting to see those kinds of conversations happening. And we're going to see the pound and the euro and the Australian dollar strengthen. These are all futures or ETF stories as well. Today, we got a big push higher with the fact that we're going to see likely a softer Brexit. And that's going to be fantastic for the FTSE, the DAX, the euro, and the pound. You have to understand the narratives. Psychology moves the market. We measure fundamentals with price, and we measure price in a way with technicals. Use all 3, and you really will become unbeatable in the market. And into next week with the recap videos, I'm going to talk about individual indicators and individual tools that I use to understand the narrative. They're all free. One of my favorite ways to understand the narrative in the equities markets is to simply use, and people don't do this enough, and this is one of my secret weapons you're getting here, news searches on Google. I don't want you thinking that you're the smartest person in the room. In fact, it's going to serve you better to remember that you're not. But what I do want you to remember is certain keywords carry with them certain expectations, certain narratives, pessimism, optimism. The best way to gauge that is not to be a number cruncher, not to look at economic data, but to look at the headlines surrounding those keywords. We'll talk more about that next week. Have an amazing weekend. Talk to you soon.